Hello again and salam to all Muslim brothers and sisters. In this tutorial, we shall look at how the presentation of documents and payment are made under LC available by acceptance. Similar to payment LC, the acceptance LC also requires the seller to ship the goods first to his buyer. When trading using LC, the seller can always rely on the irrevocable undertaking issued by the issuing bank. Now, once the goods are shipped, he can prepare and obtain other documents related to the trade and in addition draws bills of exchange and present them to his bank. In other words, bills of exchange will form part of the documents required to be presented in order for the seller to obtain his payment under acceptance LC. Upon receipt of the documents from the seller, the seller's bank will go through every document to ensure compliance, and when they are found to be in compliance, the documents will then be presented to the accepting bank that is authorized by the issuing bank to accept and pay the seller. Upon receipt of the documents, the accepting bank will conduct the standard document examination process to determine whether or not the presentation appears to be in compliance. When the documents are found to be in compliance, the accepting bank will accept the bills of exchange that is drawn by the seller, or also known as the drawer, by endorsing on the back of it to signify its acceptance. The accepting bank then will notify the maturity date in writing to the seller through his bank. The maturity date will depend on the tenure of the draft or bills of exchange. It can be 30 days sight, 60 days from invoice, 90 days from BL, and so on. The tenure of the draft or bills of exchange depends on the mutual agreement between the seller and the buyer. The documents and the bills of exchange then are presented to the issuing bank. Before the documents are presented or delivered to the buyer against his acceptance, the issuing bank will again conduct the standard document examination process to determine compliance, and when the documents are found to be in compliance, they are presented to the buyer against acceptance of the bills of exchange. The buyer must accept by endorsing on the bills of exchange before he can get hold of his documents to clear the good at the port. On maturity date, the accepting bank will pay the seller through his bank, and the buyer will pay the issuing bank, and the issuing bank will reimburse the accepting bank. This is how the presentation of documents and payment are made under acceptance LC. As you can see here in this illustration, it is quite a straightforward and simple process. The same illustration also applies to deferred payment LC, where the payment under deferred payment LC is also made on maturity date, but without the use of bills of exchange. This is the example of bill of exchange used under acceptance LC. This is here is the amount of the bill, date of the issuance, and tenor of the bill. The tenor of the bill depends on the mutual agreement between the buyer and the seller, and the amount in words paid to the order of the exporter or the beneficiary or the seller. And this is the drawee bank, that is the accepting bank that is authorized by the issuing bank to accept and pay the seller, and it is signed by the exporter, seller, or beneficiary, or a drawer. So from the illustration, we can summarize the whole process into the following. First, the seller ships the goods to the buyer, and seller presents documents to his bank. Seller's bank presents documents to the accepting bank. Accepting bank accepts bills of exchange and presents documents to the issuing bank. Issuing bank delivers documents to the buyer against acceptance. Accepting bank pays seller on maturity date. Buyer pays issuing bank on maturity date, and finally issuing bank reimburses the accepting bank. That's all for now. I'll see you again in the next tutorial on LC available by negotiation, and thanks for watching.